All right.
cleaning
Did you
carpet,
think
something.
more about the agent design that we went over?
No, I really haven't had a chance to do anything since Saturday.
Oh, okay. Um, okay. Well, I guess there's nothing to go over then. That's kind of all there is to.
Yeah, I'll get time today. Um, well, yeah, I will get time today. Tomorrow will be better,
Okay.
which is why I was suggesting maybe there's not a hell of a lot to talk about unless there's stuff happening on your side.
No, I've just been using Codex to clean up the repo or repos.
Mm-hmm.
Using O3 to design the communication channel that goes between a UI widget or a frame and the controlling page. Um, the um, the mock. I was gonna add this concept of asking for context permission, so like a widget can work away and it can try and access some context that you didn't give it permission to, and I think that should pop up a permission window or a permission something. So like
Hmm.
it's like
Oh, that's
uh,
interesting. So it's like permissions with Discovery.
yeah, and it's like different permissions. Like, hey, I need to list all the repos you've got, and if you didn't give that widget permission, it should go. Uh, do you want to give this thing access to that or what?
Okay, so that's interesting. In order to discover it, it would at least need to. We wouldn't necessarily have access to the repo, but would need to know what the repo is about.
Not necessarily. It could be everything knows that it's being run in the context of an actor. And
Mm-hmm.
so it could be like, well, I want to do something that lets me list all your repos. And you're like, no.
Oh,
Or,
that's true. And it could be that the top level agent has asked a bunch of other agents, which is fine because
mm,
it's just discovery. And one agent come back saying, "Hey, I know a lot about this, but you don't have permission. Can you ask?"
yep. And then if you're on any given branch, you know that there are other branches. So you can ask to list all the branches. You know that there's history, so you can ask to see if there's history or walk the history or not. Like, I don't know how fine grained we got it, but I think uh, the the model is that you restrict the permissions and then you open them up, and the user should be in full control of that.
How do we, or how do you think we would do indexing, discovery? As in,
The discovery of what?
you start with one agent
Yep.
that has access to your repo, um, and you want to build out from there. It's like, okay, so I want to do the CRM. So then,
Oh, right. Well, I'd imagine you make yourself a new repo and then you start.
so you go outside of the chat and just clone.
I would say init, because if you're here, and you go, you'd be in the chat. So I'm in a chat. I'd go into the repo. I'd go new repo, and I'd say CRM design or prototype. I think.
Okay, but if you were to come in this fresh as a new employee of the trucking guys,
Yeah.
and they say, right, here we go, this is our portal.
Oh, right.
At the
So
very
there,
start,
yeah. Discovery of repos. Yeah, that
yeah,
would be. Well, it's a good point. There should be a search on the repos.
or an invite at the very least, you know.
Yeah,
CRM.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
the
So that
trucking
would
guys
be
go, hey, this is one.
so the trucking guy, the admin, would go into settings and would be like search for person and then invite. So I'll just add these bits in as notes. Um, to invite, and then also repo widget needs search for repos.
Yeah, probably that would be presumably search based on your. I don't know what the word is.
Where would your
Your
context or your
context is over indexed there. It's like your set of available repos, some of which may be public to all, some of which you may be given permission by from someone else.
yeah yeah. So with the CRM guys, they would have a repo that was installed running somewhere, and then you would need to somehow discover the name of it. So I think I need to put in here a DNS service of some kind, like a really simple one.
Sort of like DNS, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they can either knock on the door of some CRMs that they that look right, or they can wait till they receive an admin invite for the real one, and then they just. Where
Right.
would you expect the invites to pop up? The messages.
Yeah, I would expect my agent to say, "Hey, someone's just invited you."
Your agent. Where's your which window does that show up in?
The your home. This is like your home
Home.
agent. Yeah. I
No.
reckon.
So to see that message, which button would I click on? This one, agentic messages.
Yes. So I reckon it would be. You got your top level agent, which is essentially a mirror of you. I would expect that agent to be receiving messages on my behalf, maybe even answering messages. But then,
Oh, events, right. I forgot. Sorry, I hadn't implemented some of the changes from a couple of calls back. We said events,
yeah,
so that
yeah,
it show up in your events stream.
and it's like, yeah, next time you log in, your um, your top level, I don't know if we've got a good name for it yet, or your top level agent, your persona, your online doppelganger.
I don't think there is one. I think that that's provisioned however you like, and it depends how you connect the response to events is configurable.
I think that second part, the response to the events, is drinkable. Absolutely, you might
Yeah,
just say, "Don't bother me with it."
yeah,
Just say no to everyone.
yeah. So when
Or
you're in your home repo, I think you have Naps installed. When you add an agent to your home repo,
mhm.
I think that's not a true agent. It's an agent in all respects except the fact that it's not free. Like it's not an individual repo. And so you kind of installed it like a nap.
um, hmm,
Is that
um,
is that corrupt or collapsing the boundary of agent a little too much or what?
we were talking about it like a truly awesome PA,
Yeah.
um, and that PA is involved in your personal
Right.
repo.
But I know that there's not going to be one there's not one PA to rule them all. Like I'm going to
Oh no,
want to
no.
try a bunch of them. I want to have different ones do different things because that's how they work.
Um, do you need to put? Would you not need to bootstrap at least one?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that
Could be a
like,
dumb bot, but
well, I mean, we wouldn't launch with our dumbest agent. We'd pick like the one that we liked and used.
yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking is like, agents. So when you got repos, you got these are repos that are the tree of repos. You know, each one can have children. These are your direct children. Some of them are ones that you're linked to, like the CRM.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
technically
right.
speaking, an agent that you create and control is technically just another repo here, but I want to not show it in this structure. I want to filter it out because I want to have a friends or a connections or an entities list here, and that's where you look for people, external agents, and configure your own agents. But I don't know if that's, it definitely belongs somewhere different because these are just data. They're not intelligence,
Yeah.
you know? And a
Yeah.
NAP doesn't suit it because even though you could make a NAP that does everything an agent does, it's not, the context of the agent becomes quite important or valuable. And so it should warrant its own repo, I think, because you don't want to just have to deal with this. Like, it needs to be unitary or like packaged.
I see where you're grasping at there. I think we settled on um, uh, the user having that repo structure is basically their base. That's their root.
Yeah.
And there is. What you're asking? Is it possible to point different PAs at that same root? In which case, it's the repo that's the root, and
Yeah.
AI is like bootstrapping it up. And you could get. I just want to be abused today, so I put a scatter on there or something, or I want absolute obedience.
Yeah.
But the repo is always the same presentation. Yeah, that works.
All right. So, well, okay. Another way to do it is to say that agents, you could treat agents like NAPs, but I'll make one extra button here, which is agents, and you install and connect agents to an individual repo. But even that seems a bit weird. Like, you kind of want an agent to be its own thing, and then it can be connected to one repo, but it could be connected to many repos. Whereas a NAP, it's kind of,
Yeah. I think the first. So you could have if we take a repo
yeah,
by analogy as a company, you could actually have the same accountant look at many of your portfolio of companies.
right. But I suppose that a NAP can be installed on many different repos. So in that sense, an agent is the same as a NAP, where it's sort of granted access to.
It is. It's an intelligence that knows context
Right.
and has access to
So I guess
a repo.
In some ways it looks like a NAP, but in other ways you want it to maintain memory or history between calls, and you don't want that leaking. So
Yes.
all right, but I guess that's the same for NAPs. Like NAPs, all applications need a little private slice where they can store their own long-term data, like API keys and config options and preferences, because that's how they do their job, is a little bit of memory.
Yeah. And so I think you're right. What I was thinking about is your home repo had one PA to rule them all, but actually that doesn't make sense because the repo was the base.
Yeah.
You can't go below the repo.
No, that's it, the active repo. And so you could install agents like you do install NAPs, like you're basically connecting to a specialist, and it could be an instance that you own.
I guess once installed, then it remembers previous context. So you're not having to repeat yourself every time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you can fire an agent without disrupting the repo. It's like, oh, you're shit.
Right. So that's a bit different to a NAP, because a NAP is if you take a nap away from the repo is fundamentally different. But if you took an agent away from the repo, it's like if you have an org and people come and go from the org stays the same.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we're down an agent. All right, well, it's still the same org, I guess.
Yeah. Then you can go and hire a new one, which would,
Right.
in effect, you could even hire the same agent just without any of the context.
Okay. Well, I do think that, so we got this distinction between like, these are the, up the top here, these are the full context actor based things that are to do with you and your interaction.
Yep.
We were going to have chats, which is going to have like, it's going to look like the WhatsApp view, which can include chats with agents. But then we're also going to have events, which is like, that's where things that can be used to trigger naps or agents come in.
Yep.
But actually, triggers can go down. Triggers is per repo because every repo has triggers.
It's probably nuanced, but that possibly could end up in a trigger storm or an event.
You always
storm.
worry about trigger storms. Don't worry about trigger storms. They're easy to deal with. They're just like the. Right. You could make a trigger storm right now, but they're reasonably easy to figure out and detect.
Okay, all right. It's just that you want report by exception. Yeah. So only tell me if it's interesting. Yeah. And only tell me the result.
Right.
The final state when you guys have finished it. But you don't. If you've got a whole bunch of repos that are talking, or agents that have access to repos that are talking to each other, you don't want to hear all the chatter.
No.
Because that's just like Slack, which I despise.
So here's a question then. Each repo should then be able to have. Oh no! Only an agent can have chats, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Only an agent can have chats, but an agent is a repo, and you can browse it just like you browse any other repo.
Yeah.
Or do you require that it's a different section? Nah, it needs to be a repo, hey? Because you got to see the files and the branches, and you want to analyze it and all that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if we made the rule simply that an agent is a top-level actor repo, but you can install it anywhere in your repo tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that it gets held in a certain format by the platform, because the platform runs actor repos. You can't just go in and smack whatever you like in there with a commit, because they're designed to interact with each other and with the platform in uniform ways. And if you were able to corrupt that, you would break the fundamentals of the protocol.
Yeah, so they're like protocol gatekeepers in that way, in that respect.
So they run in a partnership between you and the hoster. You can use them and configure them, but the hoster restricts or requires that they follow more rules than just a regular repo.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do feel bad constantly going on about these things, but the distinction between an agent and a NAP is very, very delicate, and it's incredibly important for us to be overly sure.
Oh no, don't worry about it. This is worth grinding over.
Okay. And then so if only actor repos can have chats or messages, then all right. So just from the top, I'm going to replace this thing. Chats is going to be chats, but it's going to be chats with both your installed agents, your secretary, and whoever else you want, and you just select them based on, just like in WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, and we can talk in due course about this report by exception, because for example, with the TFU guys, there's a hell of a lot happening there. It's like I don't know what's relevant.
Yeah, so that's fine. So that can all be processed by agents or naps if you wanted to. Then we would the context manager stays the same. That's basically the key thing. And then we have that was going to become events, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. But then I think that events moves down to be part of repos because every repo has an event. And if you want to browse the events for your actor repo, you would browse to use the repo view to get to your actor repo, because otherwise I've got the same icon twice.
Yeah, I see that.
You know?
Here's let me try and break that. Actor to actor messages.
Those are not. They would show up in chats.
Right.
And events would record that a chat message had come in, but chats is where you go to see the actual content. So events is just a trigger, like an event type has occurred, and here's maybe some details. But if you want the full event, you got to go to the widget or the location that that thing represents.
Yeah, because that gives you the context that you can actually, do something sensible with.
Yeah.
It's your memory, basically.
Yeah. So the question is then, like, I guess it doesn't make sense for repos to have chats, but it does make sense for repos to have events because they can receive all kinds of events, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So the events for your home actor are browsable by looking at the repo of your home actor, because this whole section feels like the admin section in a way. Like it's like that's the business end of stuff.
Yeah, that's where you do work.
Yeah.
Really, as opposed to just receive information.
Right. Okay, so chats. So for a home repo, you got home, which is like configurable widgets and whatever else you want. It just feels like you kind of don't need home, but I feel like you should have it because it orients you in the system. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, buddy? Yeah. Then you got chats, which if you're an agent, you have that. And it's all your interactions with other agents. That's where you search for friends and agents. As a repo, you should be able to install an agent or connect an agent the same way you do an install with naps. So we could either split the nap screen by between naps and agents, but my personal preference is to split it to agents. So have a new tab that was agents, and that's how you shop for agents, you search for agents, you connect them up, you kick them out, whatever.
It feels that there is a distinction that we're kind of it's slippery, but
it's real slippery, eh? Like you put your hand on it and you're like, I'm not sure it's sort of it's close but not, right? Like when is a machine not a machine?
Right. Yeah.
All right, and I think that if you were to look at your repo tree, you could create a new actor, which was completely a slave, I guess. It was completely under your control, but it was still, the fact is the repo is an actor repo, and that's what makes it an agent. And if you fully control it, then you're away. So the question is, if I publish agents, there's two ways people could consume an agent. I'm in control of it and you come to the agent with messaging and context and stuff and it goes back to you, or you install or clone the agent within your repo structure, and now it's like it's forked from or installed from a source, which is the agent producer, but it could be entirely private to you, and it may receive updates from the agent producer.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah. The the inner model I'm working on here is I'm just imagining I've got a huge staff and a pool of staff I could hire, and I can hire. I could subcontract. So subcontracting would be um, the second one that you said there, that contains the context, and I just receive events and messages, and we're working on something similar, but I don't have the ability to fire that. I don't have the ability to delete that
Yeah.
agent,
Yeah.
or I can create an instance.
Yeah.
I can clone an instance, and it's like that's my slave. I could delete it, or I could
Yeah,
subcontract that.
it's like that. There's like a TV series, Severance. You can sever it, right? Like
Yeah,
Severance, I think
I
is
love
like
Severance actually. Severance
uh,
is pretty cool.
I've only seen the synopsis, but my understanding is it's a story about how employees can go to work, do some stuff, and then they have their memory wiped.
Well, effectively, as soon as they walk into the building where they work, um, they don't have access to any of their context from outside, and when they leave work, they don't have any access to the context of when they're at work.
All right. There was a cool movie with Ben Affleck in it that it was like that, and he made like a time machine. And while he was working on it, he was so worried about its power that he left clues around to help him figure it out when he was out in the real world. Anyway,
Mm.
so there's agents that are completely controlled by you,
Yep. So
severable
these are instances that you've cloned. They're your instance.
under complete control of you.
Yep.
You own them completely. So they're not private, but they're I don't know. We'll come up
They're
with a word.
I know slave is a very bad word to use for it, but it is a legal term, master slave relationship, in that you could fire the agent.
You could disconnect from an external agent. I guess internal agent's a good one because their context is completely contained within your control structures. Or an
Yep.
external agent would be someone that you're not in control of, and it could be like a chat bot that runs your website or answers questions for you.
Yeah.
And someone makes
Yeah.
a really good one of those, and then they attach it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly so. And you could give permissions to an external agent to a repo. You could give access to a number of external agents and have some kind of bake off between three of them
Yeah, right.
on one
Absolutely.
repo.
Yeah,
And you could do the same internally, but the difference would be internally, you could just delete that instance and then try again.
right.
Doesn't really work.
So when I go to chats and I see a list of chats includes people now, right? Like I can search for people, or should that be a separate tab? People.
Oh,
La 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 la
um,
la la. Because
we've been
WhatsApp.
talking about there's no difference between them, but actually, I think
Oh, sorry, I didn't
most
mean
of
I
the difference.
didn't. Well, no, I think you should be able to search for agents or people, but you just filter them. Like some people, you don't know for sure that someone isn't an agent, and I think that's the key thing about passing the Turing test. But um, depending on how you intend to interact with them, it could be you should be able to search for those that advertise themselves as an agent versus those that advertise themselves as a person.
It seems like there should be some indicator that you're talking to a person, but
Mm,
it's actually when you
It's a
search
comfort setting.
for someone to do some stuff
Yeah,
or
yeah,
some interaction
yeah.
is in the same place, but there's just a
You
little.
search for someone to do some stuff. So that seems, is that fundamental or is that just posting a stuck where you're like, someone posts themselves as a solution? I'm like, hey, I'm available for this amount of time to do this stuff. Is that a
Um,
solution?
I guess the distinction is that are you talking to a legal entity or are you talking to a bit of software? And is that an important distinction?
That's not an important distinction, in my opinion.
It is if you want to sue them.
I think you're on the wrong platform if you want to do that.
I mean, my gut says we should blur the lines as much as possible.
I feel like that's our thing, right? Is like we're going from the premise that there is no distinguishable difference. We can
Yeah.
distinguish between an application and an agent, but that's all.
Why is that? Why is that weird? It feels like the potentially we're walking into the uncanny valley with
I don't
that,
care.
but we can
Let's just go there and then we'll back out later. Um,
yeah.
I feel strongly like there should be it should go home contacts, which would be like how you search for people and agents to
Yep.
talk to.
Yep.
And then chats, which is like active conversations that you have been having with
Yep.
agents and people. Yeah. Context is critical because that's like the top level view, and then this goes away. This this is going to move down to be events,
Yep.
and then that's the separation between repos and these special buttons is now set pretty strong.
And can events, when it bubbles up, and say, "Hey, we've done it," in the background in parallel, where does that notification go? Say if you've had a number of agents off busying around, it's taken 2 weeks, burned a whole bunch of tokens, we're done. Because otherwise you'd have to hunt and peck inside of repos.
Should that be in chats? Will you actually? That is a great question, but like here's Codex, and this is what Codex looks like. This looks like chats to me, and it's really like which repo did I talk to is one of the distinctions.
I think what the thing to avoid, I don't have an answer to your question there, but the thing to avoid is hunt and peck. So you want it to bubble up. Um, might it's not really a chat, is it? It's it's like a top level
Well, we got
thing.
processes, right? Like processes is kind of where long running tasks would go and where you could trace them and debug them. But like we're finished should be an event. Like, hey, this task finished. Um, the conversation that you're having with that agent is probably under chats.
So
If it's
this
you
is
that's having the chat.
it could be because it's done something. Wow, yeah, it's probably done something on your behalf, but it might be passive. It might have decided just to do it. Um,
Oh dear, it feels so close and then it crumbles and you're like shit.
um, it's almost like getting a letter, isn't it? Um, because chats are, generally speaking, a two-way thing, but
Well, this is a two-way thing.
well, an event might be just come out of the blue sky, and it's going,
Yeah, but
"Hey,
that's fine. And
there's a new drop."
you can filter events by type, I think.
Yeah, yeah. But where is it above or below the line?
chats is above the line because you did it. An agent did it. Only
Right,
agents can have chats.
right. But a passive event that you know nothing about, it's just dropped out of the blue sky, but it's really important.
Right.
Is
Well,
not
that
a.
would.
You'd have to hunt and peck for that.
No. Well, what's an example of an event that you're talking about?
Um, Say if you were previously talking about something to a free agent, the free agent was off doing its own thing. A few months later, saying, this stock has actually been solved. Um,
I think that
and
that would be an event that would ultimately surface by one of your agents sending you a message and being like, "Hey, boss,
yeah, it's sort of chats, isn't it?
it's
Because
chat." Yeah.
I think it might be. I think it might be.
Because
I was
and
thinking more
what are
of
you
a
gonna do
passive
next?
thing.
Nah, those are not.
It's just going to be spammed, though, isn't it?
You could do that, but it's probably better. Like you could configure a NAP to respond to just some types of events and create a more powerful event, like send an event to your home repo.
Oh, that's where it goes. Um, you're right.
But I
So
don't
this is
know
a
if
nap
it's
that how I would do this is I would configure a nap that was a listen command to a channel saying as soon as my name comes up on x.com, for example, um, consider it against these criteria that prompted you for, and only tell me if someone's slagging me off. And then that nap is passively pushing information to you, but only when you've asked that information to be pushed to you. You can't have a completely passive thing because otherwise it's just going to become unmanageable.
okay. So then another way to do it another way to arrange that achieves the same thing you're talking about is to say that each repo has an events tab, and that's everything. And yes, you can filter it and you can do whatever. And then as an agent, I have a high priority inbox, like a high priority, a managed version of events where these are events that are curated by whatever complicated structures I've set up between naps and agents that serve me and whatever. And this is where notifications that are of interest pop up, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily in chats because it might not be a chattable thing. It's just like you have configured the system, and now a system level message or a high priority thing has come in, and it's like, this is a notification that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Can I kind of test that with an actual example
Sure.
of reputation management, which is one of the things in our hopper. So, reputation management, you're not sitting there scrolling, doom scrolling for your name all the time.
Right.
But if your name appears on the front page of the Daily Mail, you want to be told about that pretty damn quick
Yeah.
and surface that very quickly. So you would prompt an agent that had access to a number of NAPs, had access to a repo that perhaps stored whenever your name was mentioned, but only actually phoned you at 2 a.m. When bloody hell, man, you're going to be
Yeah.
on the front page tomorrow.
Yep. All
Yeah,
right.
that
So we'll
works.
give, yeah, we'll
That
put,
works.
and it might have more context than just the system level events. So really, like, all this stuff down here is just all system level stuff. And then if you just wanted to sort of interact with the system, this would kind of be all that you'd deal with, right? There's your chats, there's your context, there's your high priority messages or your notifications.
Yeah.
triggers and stuff.
Yeah, and then below the line, you're talking to specific repo.
Would you ever want to
So,
send a high priority trigger? Not really, right? Like this is
no,
really just notifications.
yeah, this is
Yeah,
yeah, this is a
notifications.
red flag. It's like, oh, what's,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you need
And
to
so
know this.
if depending on how you've configured things, one of your agents, your PA, could be the one that manages that or sets those flags high or low or whatever, right?
Right, and the content rather, of those can lead you to the context.
Okay.
So it's like,
Okay.
you should look at this.
All right. So
You're
one more
going,
time from the top, we go home, chats, context, notifications.
yeah,
Then there's a break where you get into the system area where you're now dealing with the data level and the artifact level.
yep,
We go repos, branches, files, agents, naps, processes, events, settings, innovations.
okay. So let's take this one at a time again.
Okay, I'll go slowly.
No, it's not the.
Oh.
I'm just thinking from the point of view of a user understanding the
Yeah,
difference
but
between branches.
you're a power
and
user.
repos.
At this point, this is the power user section.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Fine. All that made sense to me. I was
Yeah.
just thinking.
Should innovations go up the top? Because you kind of want to interact with the innovation system on the regular and across all repos. But that's maybe this is just innovations that are scoped to this repo. But up here is like your global innovations.
Isn't it the same as the red flag notifications in that you
Nah,
can
because
program it to be interested in certain things?
No, because you want to also dive into it, search it, research it. You want to chat about things, have theories about things. It's kind of the key aspect of the Dreamcatcher.
It is. But where does it
I
go?
think it goes up. I think it goes in two places. The innovations for this repo, they go, that's just things related to the repo that you're connected to.
Yeah.
But the innovation network as a whole can be represented as this thing here.
Okay. So the above the line innovations, what does that look like? Because that could get big and unmanageable pretty damn quick.
That's what we want.
So it's like, it's like getting a brainstorm of every brain using
Yeah,
the
but
system.
that's the same as like Google. Google holds every web page ever.
Actually, you're right, isn't it? It's not the size of the number of innovations; it's the
No.
ability to surface them.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's all down to search
Yep.
at that point.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Yeah.
So innovations in a repo represent the actual stucks. So we might rename this as stucks, and then innovations is what you surface to browse the problems and the solutions you're interacting with the
So what's your intent above the line solution? Above the line innovations.
Yep.
What's your intent when you click on that?
I either have an idea and I want to check how it's going, or if it's viable, or find other people that relate to it.
So that's a new innovation.
Yeah.
Click button.
Or I got a problem and I want to find a solution to it, or at least other people with that problem.
So that's a search.
Yeah. And if I need that solved, I want to be able to put some money against it.
Right. Okay. So let's go through that. I go in, I search, and find, just as you got up on the screen here, right, cuts update not syncing, CRM. That's not a solution, and that's a problem.
Yep.
But you could have equally Customer data syncing with CRM solution. There you go. Yeah. So, right, if it's a solution, then where do you go from there? It's like, that is perfect. I've got that problem in my head. I've not actually created a new stuck, but I could use that. So
I don't
we've
know,
got,
buddy.
click on it and then go apply that to repo, or
I don't know.
a solution. It really is a nap, isn't it? So it's like, if it's I've got in my head a problem, search for it, and there's a solution already, then I want to be able to install that solution and point it at a repo.
I don't know. We're gonna have to play with that one. All right.
There's something there. Sorry, can I?
Yeah, sure.
If we can finish the thought on the trace through. So it's like, I've got a problem. I can do two things with that problem. I can tell the world about that problem, or I can keep it in my head and look for someone who's already solved it. So we got search and we got new. If search and someone else has solved it, then probably what I'd want is clicking on it and have some way of using it, which sounds a lot like nap install. Or if I can't find it, then click on new and tell the world about a problem, and then wait for the world to solve it. In which case, I would want an event popping up saying, "Hey, someone has just solved your problem that you posted 2 months ago." It's like, great, take me to that nap, and then I'll install the nap. Sort of.
Maybe requiring that these widgets don't show up twice is pointless. Like, most of the time you're probably going to be browsing not your home repo, and you're going to be browsing other repos, in which case it makes sense to be able to browse the innovations from the point of view of that repo, and also view the events that are pertinent to that repo. If you click on anything in the active zone here, there's no reason why all events can't be here, and it's just simply filtered by your filtering system to result in high priority curated events. And it's no crime to have you, if you selected your home repo and then clicked on events, you'd see the same identical thing. I don't think that's actually wrong anymore.
No, that's coherent.
You're right, because all you're saying is that this is the power user view, this is the everything view,
yeah,
and this is the agentic view. So agentic really sits on top of a range of protocols, components, infrastructure, whatever, and under the hood, that line is the hood, and under the hood, this is everything there is to be seen, and you as an actor are just a sort of, you don't, just the actor ignoring the repo tree or the other connections is just these controls, which is going to be just home, chats, context, friends, I think we agreed on, and events.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if I was deep in the tree, way down a rabbit hole, how would I get back to home?
Click on home.
So yeah, it kind of seems to fit there, doesn't it? It's like,
and then if you click on home, I think that snaps you to selecting the home repo too.
Yeah.
So you're like, bang, right, and then it's sort of,
it's like, get me out of this rabbit hole, and then your context is now back.
Back at the root, back rooted again.
Yeah.
And down here you go repos, branches, files, and then you'd have agents, naps, events, processes, settings, innovations. And up here, you'd go home, chat, contacts, context, events, innovations.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty packed bar. Like, that's a very
So
full bar.
innovations are where you go. Let me think about this. Your intent on clicking that icon is, I have a problem I want solved. And great if it's already been solved.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be guided through using it, as in, let's install that NAP. Or if nobody else has solved it, I want to create a stuck saying I have this problem, and then there's probably another screen where you actually define what you're trying to do, the context of the repo. In order to have any chance of it being solved, you probably need to make that repo public. You could also, inside of that, if you didn't want to make it public, you could send, you're stuck to a trusted set of people, or
Yeah, well, you can set the restrictions on who it can, be circulated to.
So when you click on that, then it's like, I've got something I can't do now, but I want to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that panel solves that. The only difference is how quickly it solved it. If it's already been solved, then it's pretty much instant. If it's not, then it could be months, years. It doesn't really matter. If you've escrowed funds, then all that good stuff. Okay. And then when it's done, you've got it coming back to you saying, right, there's this thing that you asked for, it's been solved. And then takes you, yeah, that works. And your top level repo is no different from any other repo. Maybe pinned, make it easy to find. And it would be pinned on the homepage. That feels pretty smooth, actually.
All right.
I think. Yeah.
Oh, we'll give it a go.
Okay.
That feels sort of busy enough to be like, you can do a lot of stuff with all those tools.
Yeah. I think you're right. We concentrate on power users first, because
Absolutely, it's 100% power users, because you can represent anything else as a widget that just programmatically it has access to all these things, but you don't need to show everyone all those things.
Right. Exactly. And we'll bootstrap ourselves up.
Yeah. There'd be one more. I'm pretty sure this is the last extra tab I need, but I think I need a tab called transclusions.
Transclusions? What the hell is a transclusion?
A transclusion is a way to view the data that you have in the sense of the links to where the data came from, such as provenance or attribution or something like that. Like if I have files, and I've got, I wrote some awesome document, transclusions would be how I would point at, where I got the information from.
But it's more than provenance. So you could represent that as a graph, for example.
Yeah, it is a graph, yeah.
But is it more than, this begat that, begat that, begat that?
It's not mechanical. It's like you could, the provenance, the transclusions need not be one-to-one or copies. They could have been transformed. So it could have been like, I took this data and then transformed it in this way, and now I got this paragraph.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. But the uh, node link between them would have that information in it. Um,
Yeah, but the link between them is a special kind of data that we need to store on a system because it, I guess you could say it's just a way to interpret the files, but it almost feels like it needs its own viewer to see it. I guess we could just add that in later. I just worry that, like, where that would be super useful is in annotations because more and more the AI responses are including annotations which refer to like links and other such things. And so if we make systems that use RAG to look up like atoms of, like doing the ambient attribution bot, it's going to do this RAG search and it's going to look for relevant rules and relevant examples and information. And then when it gives its response, it needs to cite those annotations. And when you go and browse the annotations, you should get this transclusions widget that gives you the links that shows where did that come from? Okay, why is that rule there? Okay, all these other cases. You should be able to walk the links.
are
And
you
are you mad?
are you talking about?
Hey,
Are you
that's
talking about
Xanadu.
where to hold the context of a state change
Where did it come from? That's what I'm
and
saying.
why and who and
Yeah, and like, because when the bot
comments
when the bot
and
says
here's why.
something, yeah, when the bot says something, it needs to cite what rag it used, what pieces it used to look up, and as a user, I should be able to navigate through those and then trace the provenance of them, not in terms of provenance of which repo did they come from and which commit introduced them, but the knowledge itself is more than just the representation of the knowledge, which is what gives us. The knowledge itself can have come from many different places, and some of those places may need to be reverse engineered, like, you know, um,
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely, lovely problem you got there. It's the where to store the reasoning between state changes. I mean, like, how did that happen? Um, and that can be quite rich. It could be this free agent considered a whole bunch of uh, inputs from actors and other agents and different repos and
yeah,
decided to make the state change from here or there.
yeah. I guess that becomes a viewer. Actually, it becomes like a transclusion viewer where you can look at a
Exactly.
document and navigate the transclusions
Yeah, I
within
hate
it.
the word. I do not like the word transclusion.
Yeah, well, I'll bet you would
It's
have hated the word hypertext when it first came out too. But
no, actually, that was my dissertation uh, on hypertext. I love the word hypertext. Uh, transclusion seems
buddy,
like oxymoron.
I don't want to have an argument about words. Okay, the
Okay,
the
we'll
Ted
pin that one. We'll
Nelson
pin that one. We'll pin that one.
design.
But
Ted Nelson came up
the
with it.
idea,
He got to name it. Okay, and that's what
yeah.
we got.
But the idea, what you're trying to grasp here, I think, is uh, we've got one state, and then we move to another state. It's
Mm.
like um, if taken, let's say taken to court, why did you do that state change? And that is a very rich context in itself. That could include reasoning from agents, from free agents, from actors. It could even include naps triggering the world's changed, and therefore it's the argument about why did you move from state one to state two.
Not quite. That's not what I meant the transclusions to be for.
Uh-huh.
It it is useful to know why you moved from this state to that state, but that is not transclusionary because it's almost like a fixed answer in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But transclusion is to say, where did the inspiration come for what you're talking about? It's like it's a better way to do hyperlinks, really, because the hyperlinks that go to, first of all, they're immutable, so they're hash based, and second of all, they refer to ranges of things, and thirdly, they can refer to transformations that occurred along the way, so that it's not the exact text that you're pointing to, it's some transformed version, and here's how we transformed it. Could have been with an LLM that had this hash, could have been with an application. And lastly, they're not necessarily one to one. They could be one to many. Like you're like, I came up with this paragraph because of taking all 10 of these different paragraphs from across the universe, running it through these 3 LLMs as transformations, picking the best one using this LLM, and that's how that paragraph came to be.
Sure. And in a clunky-handed way, that was what I was trying to express. If it's to
Okay.
simplify it, it's like state 1 moves to state 2, and the link is why. Why did that happen? And everything you just said can contribute to the explanation of that state change.
That doesn't feel right, but I'm not. If you believe that we're talking about the same thing, then that's cool with me.
That list you went through, everything I was ticking off as you went through, I was like,
Right?
yep, yep, yep. And it could be multiple reasons. You could have probabilistic reasons. You could have opinions in there. You could have other state changes that triggered,
Right, but that feels like, because like a transclusion, a hyperlink doesn't include a y. Is not a hyperlink is not a y, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Hyperlink
why
is
is
just like a link.
yeah? So why are you thinking that these transclusions, which are really just high-powered hyperlinks, why do they
Well,
represent a y?
I'm thinking it's and it may be unfeasible because that's a hell of a lot of information. Every time you do a state change, you include the context behind that state change.
Turns out, buddy, that is something that is unique. What seems like only to blockchains. When an AI runs on a blockchain, it always has access to the complete, unambiguous context of the system. Its entire state and history are built into each block. And that's kind of what I think Codex helped me see was that blockchains are the only way that you can have easy access to the full context of the system. Otherwise, pulling in the context becomes a nightmare. But if I point at the whole system as just one hash, and I can point at any state as just one hash.
Right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But
Sorry.
that's it. No,
Getting
that's
excited.
it. Yeah, it's not a hell of a lot of information if you're running a blockchain.
Yeah, but that hash, if you go multi-chain on it, are just pointers to points in time that were considered that ended up in the triggering of state 1 to state 2. So if you want to ask
Yeah, I don't know why does triggering keep coming up? Because what if it was a human that caused the trigger? The human's never going to tell you why.
No, but that is off-chain. But everything on-chain is available.
Okay.
So sure, the human might have had just like a bad day and come up with a crazy idea and just gone state change. In which case, that would also be on chain. It just wouldn't be a rich why. It'd be like, because this guy decided to. But
The I said so hyperlink.
Yeah, exactly. But usually, especially if there's a whole bunch of agents interacting or there's a context thread or multiple context threads on multiple repos with kind of multi-chain hashing, uh, it would be possible to, if you wanted, saying, "Look, why did that state change happen?" And roll back and go, right, okay, so that happened because the stock market was falling, and
Mm.
this,
All right.
et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how core it is, though. I mean, it's a beautiful PhD project for someone, but I don't know how core it is. How core do you think it is in your head?
It's not very core, but it should be. And maybe I'm thinking about it being in the wrong place. Maybe it belongs in the innovation widget where the innovations allow you to point at, you're like, where did that idea come from? And you're like, all these other places and me. And, because when I imagine browsing the innovations, I do think of a spiderweb like graph. And so
Yeah.
maybe transclusions is just part of that.
Well, I'm getting excited about it because it's a really rich idea. Because then you can compare, right? State 1 went to state 2, or state 1.2, let's say. State 1 went to 1.3. State 1 went to 1.4. 1.4 was far superior. What was the decision-making process that made that state change better? And let's iterate on that process, and then
Yeah,
you
but
can get
that's
really high quality. But this is not. I don't think this is core. Is basically what I'm saying. It's just a really, really interesting topic for, you know, a stock or. But it's just sitting there, isn't it? It's like a big peach. It's like we've got all the bits. We've got all the bits to do it.
I know. It's like
Right.
we can do it. And I'm like, how much more do we have to do before this is Xanadu?
I being able to reason about reasoning, I think, is done for AI. That's where AGI and everything that we are doing, and kind of doing the interface between humans and AGI and innovation. That's when we're done. That feels like innovating about innovating. But I don't think we need to do it now.
Okay, if I laid out all those widgets that I just described to you, is that enough to run the system on?
Yes, with the provisor, that I've probably seen no the first time I try and use it, but it sounds like it. Sounds like
Okay, how can we test this early? Like, I was thinking of just hooking up the chats and maybe the agent model, because that's sort of the agent model defines everything. That's why I thought that. So we got repos, that's easy, but the chats and the agent model seem the main one.
Yeah, because we test it by just using it between the two of us. We don't need events because we can verbally tell each other about events.
Yeah, we don't need to dig into that really. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just carry on making that then. So the blockers on my side are getting the widget protocol down. So it turns out there's some nuances around how a widget resizes, for example.
Oh, okay.
So here's a widget, but see how the bottom bit's cut off there? I can't scroll down to it. It's because you actually need to open a message channel between the page that's in the iframe and the page that's holding the iframe so that they can pass sizing information between them, where the child can say, this is the size I want, and the parent can say, this is the size you got, and then the parent implements the scroll bars. It's actually
Yeah,
little bit tricky.
kind of makes sense because you don't know the size of screen that you're
Yeah,
displaying on.
yeah. But there's libraries that do this and do it very well. So I'm working through that. And then I need to be able to pass the context back. Like if you click on something in here, I think that the widget interface really comes down to only uh, three kinds of things.
Hmm.
First of all, there's that UI layout stuff, but that's I'm ignoring that because I got libraries that just take care of that, and the
Yeah,
widget authors
and
shouldn't be interacting with that.
UI is always universally wrong to someone. Yeah.
Yeah. The first type of message is navigate to, where a widget can do this. Oh, well, sorry, wrong one. But basically, you can click on one widget, and it will tell the
It will.
parent that it wants you to move now to another widget. You're like, I'm done. I need you to. The user indicated that they want to go to this other widget with this other scope. Go.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that includes sort of context, presumably.
Yeah. The other type of message is context update. So where the widget tells the parent, "Hey, inside of me, the user has selected this context." Which can be multiple items. So if I'm in files and I select several files, those would all be pushed up to the parent.
Yep.
Yeah, as well as the selected context. So you should be able to have multiple contexts that you've selected that you've pushed up, but there is always one that is the primary one that you're focused on. That's like the
Yeah.
focus
Makes
of it.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Makes sense.
last one is just pure artifact messages, where you send all the stuff that if you were not a widget, you would be sending this direct to the server. But because you are a widget, you shouldn't have to think about that. You just send widget messages, you just send artifact messages. The parent filters them to see if they're out of bounds or out of scope or whatever, and then the ones that it permissions through just get sent off to the server and then relayed back. And that's how widget programming goes. It doesn't matter how deep down the widget stack you are, you still think you have artifact and you're talking straight to artifact.
Where is um there's two really banal ones, and you probably already thought about it. An undo and cancel.
You mean navigating between the widgets that we're showing?
Yeah.
That's up here, buddy. That's built in for you.
Okay. So that's the shit, I made a wrong decision.
I ran a wrong decision is different to navigating back. I mean, if you were like launch the nukes and then you're like, no, back, 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 and it's like, would you like to resubmit the launch code? And now you've got 5 barrages.
Yeah, but
What do you mean?
well, the one thing that's certain with human interaction is they'll click without thinking and go
Yeah.
shit, shit, shit.
Well, I mean, you can, if you decided to update a customer record and then went, oh shit, 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 the rollback would be you could look back in history and then you pick a version that you want to restore. So what I was thinking, right,
Yeah.
is that there'd be this little band up the top that indicates to you. See, this band here represents what repo you're in and the file you're in within that repo, but I actually think that that's wrong. That should be down here, and there
Hmm.
should be some other like control level buttons that allow you to navigate back in history. So the beautiful thing about widget design, I think, or Git really is to thank for it, is that when you're at the latest commit, there's no way of the widget knowing that that's truly the latest one. And so it means that a widget author who makes a good quality widget, if I just put these history navigating buttons up the top, you can use that widget to show any past state or any forward state, and you can time travel with the widget. And then up the top here, I can just have a thing that says, do you want to restore this version? And so that's,
And then that goes onto the head,
yeah, yeah.
and then it's like, right, we'll never talk about that again.
Let's never speak of this again. Yeah. And then one other addition you could get is that if the widget was made to be diff aware, then I could, instead of giving it just a scope to display, I could give it a scope and a diff to display. And if it knew how to do diffs, it would show them. Otherwise, if it didn't know, I could show just the diff in the data.
I mean,
But
that's really powerful, but that is like a power user thing that most people probably not get. It's if you were to say, yeah, crack on, what's going to change? And the cognitive load on the user is quite high at that point because it's like, you've just told me to nuke Russia. Here's what will happen if you do. Please say yes. And then it's like, oh, okay, yes, no. But the cognitive load then goes onto the user. But I think that's okay if we're assuming that it's only going to be smart people, power users going to be using this.
It's just us right now, buddy. And then we'll make widgets. We'll polish the interface because I'll make the whole thing more or less as just all widgets. So you can polish however you want the interface to be. So there'll be like the Tom and Scott version that we like, and then there's like flavors that other people want to release.
Yeah, and someone's going to produce a purple version, a pink version.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. It's really about saying that under the hood, it's Artifact.
Yeah.
On top of Artifact is this Dreamcatcher layer that has naps, agents, and innovation. You can widget that any way you like, and you can present a view that was just
above the on the left hand side. These are the things. In order to make any sense of this whatsoever, you need that bar down the left hand side because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Did you just click something?
Sorry, I was waving my hands around. I don't think I clicked something. Why?
Can you click at my screen again?
Yeah, I'm just waving my hands around.
Huh. Well, something clicked on my screen and it wasn't me.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's changed. It changed things.
I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I didn't think you were either. Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever. All right, so that's the thing then. I'll carry on with that.
Yeah, there's there's a couple hairy edges still, but I don't think we need to.
Tell me. I want to hear about them.
Yeah.
I need to hear about them.
Yeah,
Are you okay?
no,
Are you okay for time?
Well, nobody's knocking at my door yet, so yeah.
Okay. Tell me the hairy.
So again, well, the hairy things are really the how people will interact between a nap and an agent, and whether
Mate, that's hairy for us. I don't care. I care that we care. I care that we understand, and I don't think we understand. So let's get us understanding.
Yeah. That was the hairy thing. It's like we don't need to answer that.
Yeah, and thankfully, no one else on the planet has come up with a good answer for that either. So,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. And the other hairy thing, which I'm actually quite excited about because it's hairy, is the obfuscation between agents, free agents, and actors, and the uncanny valley. But again, we can't. There's no reason why we need to spend days thinking about that because we don't know.
Don't know. Make it. We'll see. Under the hood, I think it's a good architecture. There's not that much we can change about it. The UI, sure, we can change a lot about that, but the rest of it is it's fairly solidly baked, man. It's hard to.
Yeah. Well, where are we at? We're about 3 weeks in from when I first said there's nothing in the substrate that I can think of to actually break.
Mm.
And we've gone through, I don't know, whatever it is, maybe a dozen calls, something like that, maybe less. Still, there's nothing in the substrate that seems breakable.
Yep.
And at some point, I think we should just say, right, okay, stick a flag on it and call it, V1.
Yeah. I think we'll hook up these widgets. I'll get that widget protocol sorted, and then that's it. That's the system. Yeah. And then from there on in, it's just
using it.
Using it, yeah. So that's kind of the key thing you want, right? Like the key thing you want is hook up a repo and then chat about it inside chats. Yeah?
Yep.
When you have chats, the chats are with an agent, right?
Yeah.
So you want to, as the initial version 0 MVP, whatever, have a chat with an agent.
And have a chat with an agent with context. Yeah.
Chat with an agent with context. Okay, well, that's probably about the highest bar you could set. All this other stuff is really just nuance and window dressing around that.
Yeah.
So when I first boot you as your actor, you're gonna expect that somewhere in this tree is a private agent that's assigned to you. Call it Hal for lack of a better word. Yeah. And that's the agent that you're chatting to here, right? Which you might choose to change.
Yep.
At some other point, right?
Probably fiddle with, and that agent has the context. It's been speaking with me, and so therefore has some kind of memory, knows what's been said before. So we don't need to keep on repeating yourself.
Right, but where does the chat data live for that? Does it live entirely within your system?
For that, I think it lives. Oh.
Or does it live in both places? Does it live in the Does it live in the agent's repo and your repo?
I think it does. I think the agent has its own
version of that chat, but flipped, right?
Yeah, it's got what it remembers, because I want to be able to fire, my agent, and then clone a new fresh one, and it goes, "Oh, hello."
Oh, hello.
Well, hello, and is not polluted by any of the nonsense that I've accidentally put into it. So the agent itself has a repo, and I have a repo.
Yep. And when you chat, the wires are crossed over, so that your incoming messages are out. It's outgoing, and its incoming are your outgoing.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it's my agent, then I could always choose to just delete the thing. But the same model works with a free agent in that I can't delete a free agent. It's a free agent.
What happens if you delete your last internal agent?
Then the machine that goes ping goes beep. I don't know. Maybe we want to just not let that happen. You got to have one, otherwise we're flopping back just to
Yeah,
repos.
the thing that bothers me though is that you don't need to just have chats. You don't need the agentic infrastructure. You don't need this agent repo if you just want to have an AI chat with like, you know, O3 or something. But
Well, yes, but you need to still have context.
you do, and that can still be done entirely within your own repo. So you can, the thing that's different, I guess, is we're saying that you can only chat with an agent and you can dial the agent down into this dumb mode where it can act like an old chatbot, which is like very limited information about no access to past history,
Well, yeah, but
you know.
that's the same as having an agent that just acts as effectively the command line interface.
Yeah, but is that better? Is that model better or worse than ChatGPT's model?
Um,
Because it's more complicated, that's for sure.
the what Chat GDP doesn't have is that ability to talk across threads to merge different agents um, and uh, get something that is stored in a way that if you wanted to, you could go into the repo and say, and look at it yourself and double check. So ChatGPT at the moment, sure, you could pull in a previous thread, and it's got its memory. Its memory, by the way, is starting to bug me because it pollutes stuff.
It gets
Like
polluted, eh? And you can't
yeah,
curate it. Like, you can't sort of have a chat about it and clean it up.
yeah.
Mm.
So they're not there yet now. Will they get there? Yeah.
Right. So when the beauty about an agent is that you can go in there and work on the memory it has, and you can look at its memory files and dissect it, haul it up on the bench, and then like cut bits out, add bits in, experiment with how it would have responded if things were different, right? Like you can basically wrap the whole of ChatGPT up and say that's my ChatGPT agent, and then look at that from the point of view of that's an entity that I can mess with and I can completely control and see all the internals,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, and then see, one of the things with ChatGPT is you can only sysprompt it one way. Now, when you get into projects, you can sysprompt it in different ways. Like you can change the sysprompting on a per project basis for it, but it's still not, the agent model is this whole unit that you pick up and move around, right?
Right. Right.
Right. But now you've got this duplicated data where the chats that you're having with it are stored in your repo and the agent's repo.
Or a common repo, which is a chat repo, which you both point to.
No, that's correct, but now that's more problems. But I mean, it can not duplicate data because I can make the hash of the object be the same in each side. You know, like
Yeah.
just because the polarity of the messages is flipped doesn't mean that the message objects themselves need to be any different. So I can,
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's no storage loss. It just feels duplicated to have it on both sides. But you kind of need it because you could sever one from the other. Like you could rip the agent out and throw it away, and I'd still expect to have my chats, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Right.
And also, and this is definitely not V1. You could do things like, I've just fired this agent. I'm going to clone this new agent, and I'm going to ask the same questions because I do that quite a lot. You go back up
Right.
to the top of the thread and
Yeah.
copy and
Okay.
paste
So
the same questions.
this is where we start getting into the fun part of the conversation, which is where there really should be an agent workbench or agent analysis tool, but the buttons up the side are now too crowded. We can't add anything more, and so that's where we get into the area of naps, where naps are installed, where I would have installed the, these things are all system level things that are there just so you can experience parts of the system. And I think that's a good rule to determine if this box should be there. Like, is it part of the artifact system, or is it a feature delivered to you by a nap? And if it's a feature delivered by a nap, sure, you can pin it to your home, or you could even add it into the nav bar, but it's not a system feature. It's a nap is doing that for you. And so here we would have the agent workbench v1, and you would pull up the widget, and that gives you things like performance metrics, evals, memory views, memory pruning, memory reset, memory. You can work on the agent using all these tools and this widget to help you do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's where so that's really the thing I got to make, is this jump off between the UI that we supply and the configurable NAP UI, which represents packages that you installed and selected, some of which we'll pre-install for you, but from that point on, you're free to sort of browse the store and put your own stuff in.
It's a lot. It's analogous to npm, right?
Yeah, that's the NAP store.
And then you can go npm all the way down in terms of environments. A NAP that says, right, okay, take this hash, and I want to go and figure out why, between state changes to NAP. And then that NAP produces a repo, which you can then create an agent in order to help you figure out what does that why mean. But all these things, again, don't break the substrate. It's like, because you've got that substrate,
okay,
you can fold it many ways. It's like, how much did it cost me to make this decision? Or this state change.
So I can even leave some of these undone. Like, I can leave off innovation, processes, naps, and just have files, branches, repos, and then just do agents with the AI chat part, context, and then it's more or less it. That's enough for you to get in there and start.
It would be enough. The only thing would be on having some kind of stub for innovations. Say, I tried to do this and I couldn't.
But we can. Well, why don't we just get to that first version, and then we'll just see what that looks like.
The thing is, at the moment we're doing that by, talking to each other. You've got your inventor's notebook thing.
Yeah, that's what I need to get in here. Like, I need to get that into this system.
Yeah, and that really that's where you pour years of your life into that, and see what happens. Which should be kind of interesting, because I'm going to pour up a bunch of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And then just leave it for, $50 worth of churning. We'll go through 10 years worth of notes.
Right. And just like...
and they go, that was quite a good idea you had back in 2019.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I forgot about that.
I did forget about that. Okay. That's sounding pretty good.
Yeah, but I'd much rather have it sooner rather than more icons.
You'd rather have it at all rather than the icons look good. Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but if I don't have these discussions, then you're going to end up with some bent and buckled first cut. But
oh, that's okay. But remember when you first did HAL?
Yeah. It was
really, really useful.
I
and how
remember
to
that.
have.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that it started to get to the point where, you know, gave the URL to Marla, and Marla was, saying, "Hey, have a look at that," and she was sending it, and it was like at one point, I think we had 20 users that we didn't know about,
I know.
burning all our tokens.
Yeah, I know. But
Um,
and there's a funny thing now that it's like how much of that was just people that were keen to get the free usage
no, it wasn't
versus
free usage. No, these guys are like not short of a few bob. The
it
thing
was the
that
prompting.
it was the prompting, and it was the ability to share a thread by sending a URL. It's like, I've just been talking to this AI. Here's the URL. Now you're shot. And I would hesitate to do a third, which was doing it live, where you're both on the URL, and you're prompting, I'm prompting, we're on a Zoom. That blew the doors off.
That did blow the doors off, and then what did we do about it?
That idea to have a common context where it's just a URL, and it's like, right, I'm going to talk to you over audio channel, WhatsApp call, whatever, Zoom,
Mm.
but we're on the same portal, and it's like, you prompt, I prompt, you prompt, I prompt,
Right.
and we're collaborating with a
Right.
single
And so
agent.
right, okay, so to pull that feature back in here, you could be doing that. You could make yourself a separate repo,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could be having chats with you could make yourself an agent, and you could have chats where a group chat with you, your friend, and the agent, but you could also have multiple threads going on with that agent, and you could jump in and out and hop around them all together.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Multiple threads.
So you have the shared context is just a group chat where you're both in there, which is that's funny that people like that. That was actually an accident on my part that even worked. I was like, oh, that
Oh man,
whoopsie.
that was the golden feature. Everyone was like,
So just to be
loving
clear, it was they wanted to be in a chat. You'd say something and the bot would respond. Then the other person would say something and the bot would respond, which is really just a group chat where there's two humans and a bot.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. And then, so furthermore, you could have, because the chats, you can make group chats with anyone you like, and you can start a new thread just by starting a new group. You could do that straight out of the chat interface where you just invite a friend into this chat at any point, right? And now it's a group.
Yeah.
And you can have multiple ones like that, plus across with different people, and it's just group chat. It's just WhatsApp group chat, but now there's agents in it.
But it's WhatsApp group chat with an AI in the room, but also with breakout rooms.
Right. It could be several agents actually, and then I guess we can do cool stuff with the chats, like use them as starting context for another one, like fork the chats.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and then
exactly it. If you think about these horrible, usually 4.5 day long whiteboard sessions, where the first part is getting the context that everyone agrees on. And it's like, all right, you go off into this table, you go off to that table. You're dealing with different problems, and then you're bringing it back. People are very used to that kind of format.
And then so how would fuck. Okay, I think I have the big question for you.
Oh, right, I'm studying myself. Okay, Go for it.
So I'm in a group chat. Okay, there's
Yep.
you, there's me, there's O3.
Mhm.
Who's driving the skateboard?
You swine. Okay. Let me think about it. By O3, you're actually talking about an agent. So there could be a facilitator agent. There could be an agent there that is running the state board. Those two could be the same. Or you could have an actor who was.
I think I think I got an idea. Can I run it by you?
Oh, please do, because I don't have any.
That's a gnarly one, eh? Like that's a
Yeah.
like a whoopsie. There's a flaw kind of a
Yeah.
question. Okay, I think when you're in a group chat, where I have this context here, I should still be able to. The chat window stays you, me, and O3. I can still click around my repos, and this is me driving the state board. But I should be able to click back to the chat, and it will take me back to the chat state board.
Right. Okay.
And then if I each time someone does something in the chat that causes a new state board to be displayed, I can click on it historically because they've taken actions and I can see what it was. But each time I navigate around my file system and add some context, it should highlight me if it's like private and it's like, hey, you're about to share this with the chat. Is that cool? Do you want to just turn that on permanently? Yes or no? And then I should be able to haul in anything except those areas that I've marked as private should be up for being just added by, so I could go into any repo, any file, anywhere and add it to the chat and then just go, this is what I'm talking about. And now everyone can see that context.
Yes,
And
but
so
also
the bot as well as the humans. And I think that's actually the extension on the multi-party chat. It's multi-party chat with multi-party context, which includes multi-party widgets, state boards.
yeah,
That's pretty dope, actually.
it is. And here's a scenario. See if I can break this. You've got one of these whiteboard sessions, and then you come up with an idea, and you go, right, give me half an hour. You go off and you chat to your own agent. In that half an hour, everyone has continued to like do stuff,
Right.
and you've been doing stuff in that half hour.
You're talking
Now
about,
out of
and then you
sync.
come back and you haul in your previous history plus the summary into the group chat.
Right, but prior to that, in your private, side session, just you and your agent, you can pull in the group chat and say,
Right. Yeah, right. You're like, here's the group chat. What
is
the
this
fuck
still
am I doing?
relevant?
Make me sound awesome because I don't know what's going on.
Right, or have they already solved it?
Right, and then you can like blank that and be like, just give me a summary and put it back into the group chat and let me approve it before I click send. And then that would populate like a text message, populate some context, and then you're like, go.
Yeah,
Okay, my
it's like,
reputation is shot.
this guy is a genius, or
Right.
this guy has avoided sounding like an idiot.
Right, because that's
we've
always a nightmare when you're having a video call is like the files, the messages, the previous chats, I need to go off and do some work somewhere and come back to you about that. And then how do I get it back to you? Do I send you a PDF?
But the group doesn't stop.
Right.
And they could, 2 minutes after you left the room, they could have just solved it. And you come back 30 minutes going, I've got a solution. And they go,
right. But one of your
that.
agents should have told you that if they see what you're doing and then they're like, oh, hey, buddy.
That would be an absolutely dope way of collaborating, wouldn't it? Because
why is it not like that? like what? Why is it not like that? And what have we done different that makes that seem easy to do?
It's because
The context management, right? Like such a
you can't
dedication to context management.
it's yeah, context management as in thread management in
But it's
that.
also like the perfect use of content addressable systems, like hash based systems, because otherwise passing around the context as the full fat file just drowns the system, but just passing a hash around is nothing,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's
And in the state board, like
it's
having
almost
this,
a joke actually how it's done. It's
how
like
it's not like that, right? Like it's silly
yeah,
that it's not like that.
yeah.
Because I should be able to have a chat, browse my file system while I'm chatting, and then just go that thing. And then the agent in the room pauses it, looks at what we're talking about, says something clever, and then I should be able to, right?
It's
But then I should,
it's almost
furthermore,
worthy of a cartoon, isn't it? I might do it later on for shits and giggles. But it's like right, you got a bunch of guys coming together to try and generate energy, and you go, I've got an idea, and you go off to a side room, work away, and you come back into the room and go, right, steam engine, and these guys going, yeah, we've got fusion now. I don't need that. Um, so it's the update between threads, the push between threads of what's happening outside.
what's happening outside, but
It's a
it's also,
relevancy.
yeah,
Um,
but I should be able to also click on different parts of the thread, like click on different context pushes or context events, and also like talk about all of those, or select the whole history, or just some of it, or just a particular message. Like it's freedom to poke at anything in the whole interface and haul it in there and have it shared so that the
that's
other
right.
guys are seeing
That's
they're
that's
seeing
right.
the chat interface. And then I should be able to have like versions of it where I can click back and it walks up the chat history. And then I can do things like reply to a context push and be like, I don't like this context, or like, hey agent, can you summarize that in Cantonese? And you're free, right? You can every file that you can lay your hands on, and here's a cool one. You
Yeah.
should also be able to push a widget into the chat. So you've got the state board where widgets are populating and showing up on the chat for all participants, but you should also be able to push a widget in chat,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Because the state board is just a summary of a shared understanding of a state, and we've been
Yeah.
thinking about that in terms of a single actor, but with multiple actors.
Yeah, and then it starts to get pretty fun, man. Like it's sort of you're free to go,
Oh
right?
man, that is awesome.
And then you could
Um,
also have an agent that runs filters on the big noisy group chats, and it just blocks or suppresses widgets or contexts or things that you don't like. Plus, it could present the chat to you as an entirely translated view where it's just summarizing the main points, so you don't even care what everyone else is saying. You're just seeing this overlay on your
yeah,
end.
that's very reminiscent on boards, on naval ships. Was where the state board thing generally used to do with damage control, and you've got one dedicated guy who's listening to all the radio signals coming in, and he's putting up changes from different parts of the ship. So one part of the ship's on fire, the other part is sinking, whatever. Um, and you've got a dedicated guy who's giving a common view, and every 15 minutes on the button, someone blows a whistle, and it's like, take a step back. Okay, so now here's the shared view. But it's a shared view from multiple groups who've all been doing their own thing. But the added point of this is the cadence of that can push out to the different groups as well. So you could have what the group view is doing and whether that changes what you want to do. This is really, really good. This is actually really,
Right. Okay. So,
really good.
a cool thing on how you can share widgets is, let's say I have the mapping widget showing where I've
Mm-hmm.
selected some, some truck routes for a day and all that, and that's showing up in the context that I'm about to push to the group. That widget could have been made with a version that was the in chat version of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I push the context plus the widget, the chat could be configured to also show the mini version as well. So you're like, here's all these route or the weather, right? Like, here's a weather widget. I could I could have gone in here and I've picked the weather, and then some of the context could have been I selected the hourly forecast, and then when I go send, it now shows the hourly forecast mini widget because it knows it can show smaller versions of itself.
Right, which means the grand state board of the group of the common understanding,
Yeah.
someone can drill down and
Yeah.
go, is that hourly? Is that half hourly?
Right, right. And then I guess you could, as the group, you could pin the state board at certain things. Like you could, like in Palantir, you could pin it as the sort of the current situation, but then these little mini widgets can be coming in from different people when they're talking about different things, and then
Yeah.
I could click on it and it would overlay my state board with it, but I know that the group's state board is pinned, so I can always go back to that type of thing.
Right, but also, again, without
Ooh,
this is not breaking anything, you can give a minority report looking at the state board.
ooh,
You could drill in on
that's
it
fucking
and go,
sizzling.
actually, I'm at this location and it is raining, it is not sunny. And that can push back to the side thread
That is
the weather.
really cool.
It is,
Group
isn't it?
group chat with unlimited context, including the context of the group chat itself. So I don't know if there's a word for that. It's like self-referential or self-aware context, where the context can be the context as well. So
Yeah.
that's wild. But anyway, group chat,
Meta or something.
group
Yeah.
chat with widgets, or effectively jitters, because if the agents are pulling in new widgets on the fly based on the conversation topic to help you see the data better as well as
Yeah.
access external services, like, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
um and then you also have group chat, group widgets, and a state board.
Yeah.
So like shared files, but also shared apps, and the apps too are also visual apps. So they're like executable apps could be shared as well, and the calculation output could be viewed
But
by each member.
but
You
it's
could share
also
anything.
it's queryable apps. So um, San Francisco 68 degrees. You could say no, it's not. It's 72. And you could push that in, but you push that in with the thread that produced that widget, and it can go, oh, it's 72. Okay. Uh, right. Well, you're on the ground and you've got a thermometer, so you know
Mm,
more than I do.
mm,
Um, but then you're looking at the thread, and it's like, well, actually, this data in the thread is higher veracity than yours, or you've got actual on ground data, and so I'm going to update the widget on the state board so you've got better,
mm.
closer data.
So you could share a whole repo here, and then all of you could independently go in there and install apps or muck around with it, and then together you could build up a repo that did some particular thing, and then you could view it in the state board and all sorts of stuff, right? So if you want to do like group programming or group chat programming of a provisioning a repo.
Yeah, but there's also because the widgets are attached to different repos, you can configure that. If you wanted to say, right, I've got way too much information here, I just want to look at weather,
Mm,
and then you could reconfigure your your personal state board that is linked to updates on the group state board, so you're always getting the latest information.
All right, well, buddy, I think that's pretty good.
That's really good, actually. That would be anytime you want to collaborate. That seems pretty solid. If you want to put out some fires in California, for example, and you've got a whole bunch of information coming, you've got a bunch of guys, in trucks with radios, you've got satellites, you've got the governor, you've got a situation room. That'll be how to deal with it. Okay, I think I'm going to need to go because I'm.
All right, I think we're done.
Hearing dogs barking, which means
life.
Life.
All right, bud. I'll stop the recording and I'll begin.